Hello and welcome to another episode of the Schmozcast here at 103.5, the Sun Community Radio Station. I'm Chandler here in the studio with Andre and Anthony today. How are we doing, guys?
Oh, I'm doing fantastic.
I'm doing very well and
Perfect.
very welcome.
Excellent. Glad to see that we all made it here safely. If you're out and about on the road right now, please be careful. It is a very crazy thunderstorm going on out there. Today we're going to be talking about the greatest Royal Rumble event that happened last week, Friday, and this Sunday we have Backlash, which is going to be the first of the rest of this year. We'll have co-branded pay-per-views, and we'll be starting things off with Backlash this Sunday. First up, let's talk about the greatest Rumble here. It was overall as an event, A, way too long, and B, it felt like just such a slap together event that they tried to make super important, which I understand why they did, because they were breaking ground over in Saudi Arabia. But I don't know, it just didn't feel very well put together, and there was, besides the Rumble itself, maybe 2 or 3 matches that I really even cared about.
To me, it felt like a glorified house show in a sense. I didn't watch the whole thing. I'll be completely honest. I watched the Rumble match itself from start to finish. I watched the Raw Tag Team Championship match from start to finish, and then I saw bits and pieces, the end of most matches, and a few highlights here and there. I did catch the Seven Deities helping out Brother Nero on a spot in his match with Jinder Mahal, where he missed Jinder, but the Seven Deities were able to hit him and knock him down. But other than the Rumble match itself, which was really fun, and I'll admit I didn't watch the IC title match, which I probably should have, but it did seem like a house show, a glorified house show with pyro, because no titles changed hands, and more importantly, there were no stakes in the Royal Rumble, other than a trophy and a title belt that probably won't be seen again. So the Rumble match itself was fun, and we got Titus World Slide, so that was fun as well. But other than that, it was, I didn't watch it, and a full pay-per-view that I didn't watch is something that's not very common for me.
Yeah, the whole thing still feels is very weird to me, I guess, that this even happened in the situation that it did. And also now that I thought there was an extra week in between Backlash and this event, so now it seems even weirder. But I don't know. When I paid to go to WrestleMania. I went to WrestleMania, and then this comes up, and it makes it seem like they're trying to take some shine away from WrestleMania, but then no titles end up changing, so, like, there's good parts and bad parts about it. It's like, okay, then what is supposed to be the important show? Is it supposed to be Backlash now, all of a sudden? And I'm not saying now, then I think that every title will change hands this week, but, in a 3 or 4 week span, like what are we really supposed to care about? Are the big events anymore? It used to be that a Raw, they wanted ratings to beat WCW. WCW was only cared about the ratings for beating WWE or WWF at the time. And then now with the network, they wanted to pump ratings or to use to get subscribers to the WWE network. And then they kind of plateaued with the WWE Network for a while, and it was more about getting Raw ratings for upping TV contracts. So now it's just they're in this weird cycle, I guess, of I don't know what's supposed to matter anymore, and it's this very weird thing. The Saudi Arabia thing, I think we'll find out more weird backstage stories. Maybe once some of the wrestlers who are there start to get released, and we'll get some of the inside stories that we will not be privy to right now. But I think there's just some weird stuff behind it. But it wasn't super exciting. It was a cool thing because it was the first of its kind, but it also felt very wrong in a lot of ways without women and and even just watching the fans. Like, I don't know if there was a moment where I was watching where the people in the front 5 to 10
where
rows,
they weren't
were
just
they
congregating
around?
Yep.
Or I don't even know what the hell was going on.
The entire event. That's what they were. It didn't even feel like, and they're front and center seats, and they're not even paying attention really to what's going on. It was just a weird event.
And I almost wonder if there would have been more backlash had there been title changes from fans being upset about this. Like, really, you gave these special events and matches to Saudi Arabia while they're not even allowing women to fight, and then had to apologize for women being playing on the damn Videotron. And then the other thing is like, it's a weird glorified house show, sort of like Andre said, but it was kind of like their WWE, pulled out their pen and the pad on the phone and they're like, all right, Saudi Arabia, let's see, we got you down for a Royal Rumble. We got you, okay, a casket match with The Undertaker. We got a ladder match in there. Great. Yep. Okay. We'll get you all set up right there. Yeah. Go ahead.
Someone reported, and I can't remember who. I wish I recalled. I wish I wrote it down so I not just feel like I'm talking out of my rear end here. But someone did report that one of the Saudi, I don't want to use the incorrect terminology, one of the Saudi royals or whoever it was that wanted the show, one of the three of the people they wanted to see were The Undertaker, Yokozuna, and Ultimate Warrior. And it's like, okay, wow, how tuned in, I mean, I'm sure the younger fans, yeah, but how tuned in were the royals or whoever it was that actually paid for this? And another thing I wanted to bring up that I kind of got off track from is it didn't feel very canon to me, is the only way I can put it. I don't know if that's the correct terminology, but it just kind of felt like it, like you said, it didn't matter. I guess that's kind of what I'm saying. But it felt like if you didn't see it, it's not that big a deal. Nothing's gonna change storyline wise because you didn't see the show. Other than the Roman Reigns Brock Lesnar match, which I think WWE is wrong about.
Was it a good thing though that it didn't matter because it was at a time where it's hard for people to get off work, and because this was, I don't know, not your standard pay-per-view. It was kind of thrown together. It felt like it was kind of thrown together. It was a big production, so they were successful, I guess, in that aspect, and pulling it off without, I guess, a major hitch that we can see, that we were able to see live. Like I said, I think we'll hear more stories over the next few years as WWE stars contracts start to be up and aren't renewed, and that maybe we'll get a better insight of what went down over the last week or so. But it just really was a weird thing. I fell asleep at one point too, so if that says how entertaining it was. But some of the other stuff I thought was better, such as like a couple years ago when they did the I think it was in Japan. They did a show there on like a Saturday night, the Beast in the East, I believe it was called. And I think that's when maybe Finn Balor won the NXT title from Kevin Owens
in a ladder match.
And it was at like 4 a.m, but that was awesome. That actually felt more important. And I think it was the Tokyo Dome, but it wasn't quite the presentation that we saw last Friday. But that to me felt more like a pay-per-view than this did. I mean, it certainly looked like a pay-per-view, but just maybe with the the weird political stuff backing it, and then the lack of any storylines really being furthered, minus maybe the end of the Rumble match for the most part, and a few other spots too, but it's sort of like, okay, how do we... It's like here's WrestleMania. All right, now because of the Saudi Arabia thing, we have to carry some of these further than we wanted to, and I wonder if this is kind of hampering the writing team in some regard and kind of had to bring things further along than they were supposed to at Mania.
Well, it's weird because then also with Backlash, it's like they're going back to stuff that happened before the Greatest Royal Rumble even went down. The whole Roman Reigns and Samoa Joe match, that was a matchup that was planned before the Rumble. They really had no interaction at the Rumble because they were in two different events, and now Backlash is coming this Sunday, and they're on two separate shows from the shakeup, and that's the storyline that they have going with them. There's other storylines that are going on that had absolutely nothing to do with the Rumble, but yet it was such this big elaborate event. It is just for as big and as grand of a stage as they made it, and as long of an event as it was, it just didn't feel like it was that big of an event. And it's weird. It's like they tried to make it that, but it wasn't.
Part of the problem is too much is going on right now. You have the Superstar Shakeup, the Greatest Rumble, Backlash. Those three things are affecting multiple storylines, multiple titles, multiple performers across. It's stretching them too thin. You talk about that Samoa Joe Roman Reigns match. A lot has happened from the announcement of that match. A lot has happened since Samoa Joe switched brands. You have the Greatest Rumble. You have you had the possibility of Samoa Joe becoming IC champion, the possibility of Roman Reigns becoming Universal champion. Neither of those happened, so now that match is going back to where it was. It just feels really cluttered and feel like things happened really, really, really fast, and ultimately none of it mattered. And that, I think, is the worst part about it. I think if they would have just changed one thing and made it actually matter, then I think it would have made things a little bit better. And that, in my mind, is the winner of the Rumble should have gotten a Universal or a WWE title match. That would have changed my mind on the entire event, and I probably would have watched the whole thing and probably would have purposely tried to avoid spoilers, which I didn't because no title. It could have even been at SummerSlam. I don't know. It's just weird event.
Would they, from your whatever different demographic you want to take this for a fan being upset, do you think that WWE would have more backlash, I guess, from fans had there been more title changes, had there been more things invested in storyline that came to a head on Friday? Would the fans actually would they have been worse off right now in terms of fans being upset that either things didn't happen at WrestleMania, or that they saved some of these things for a place like Saudi Arabia, or that, what do you think there's something? Do you think they would have been worse off had there been more storyline importance?
I think it depends on what the storyline thing that happened was. Mm-hmm. If it was a major title change, I think maybe. If it was giving Braun Strowman a title match because he won the Rumble, I don't think so. I think if a bunch of titles changed hands and both mid-card belts switched brands and all of that happened, I think there might have been some backlash because you would have had the people that got spoiled because it happened during the day, and understand that we have a lot of WWE fans overseas that deal with this on a regular basis, and so we kind of could somewhat empathize with them that Friday. But
we're non-spoiler spoiled.
Yeah. So I think you're kind of right. I think there would have been some, no pun intended, backlash had a lot more things happen, but had a couple things happen, I don't think so.
I will say it was cool to get off of school or work or whatever to sit somewhere and hang out with friends and watch the event. I think it would have been, had that event been somewhere such as Japan or Montreal, as we saw the last couple nights and how awesome that crowd was.
So hot.
I think that would have made it even more important. But is it also possible that having it A, so close to WrestleMania, and then B, a week before, 9 days before another pay-per-view, the first ever, I guess, the first non-Big Four pay-per-view with both Raw and SmackDown, does that also diminish the meaning of what the greatest Royal Rumble was supposed to be?
I think it absolutely does. The timing of it is its biggest enemy. I think if they would have maybe done the actual Royal Rumble this year as the greatest and called it the greatest Royal Rumble and just had it be the Royal Rumble,
it diminishes that too. Yeah,
I think that would have been fine. I wouldn't have argued against that. But the fact that it was thrown in between Backlash and WrestleMania, literally the week before Backlash itself, it takes away any importance that it could have had, especially the fact that there was no title changes or no real storylines furthered at the event. It's you can't have this kind of event in between WrestleMania, which is WrestleMania, the biggest event of the year, and then Backlash, which is the start of the new year. And this year, as we've mentioned, it's co-branded pay-per-views, so it's kind of a big deal. This is going to kind of set the tone for what pay-per-views are going to be for the rest of the year. So it's a bigger, already in that aspect, it's a bigger event than the Greatest Rumble itself. And like I said, WrestleMania is WrestleMania, so of course that's going to be a bigger event. To put that between the two, looking back on it now that all of it has happened except for Backlash itself, that the timing of it kind of killed itself. It's dead in the water at that point, looking back on it.
But in all honesty, was it all worth it just to see Titus O'Neil slide underneath the ring? Because
for that very moment, yes.
That might be the greatest moment, not in Rumble history, but in WWE history. I mean, I'm going to need a few days to think about that, but that was That was incredible. I thoroughly enjoyed that.
Another moment that I wanted to bring up quickly here, that was not in the Rumble match itself, was the finish to the Intercontinental Championship match. I'm pretty sure I said it last week.
I missed it because it was so okay. Ladder matches have such a somewhat of a predictable pace, I guess. And when someone climbs a ladder, it's such a deliberate thing. So it was almost like I just didn't expect it right then, and then for it to happen so quick, I looked up and it was over.
And it was over. Yeah, that's how quick it happened.
But I like that they used that finish at that time. I think that was actually kind of a cool thing.
Besides Titus World Slide, to me that was the moment of the night, and I'm pretty sure it was either last week or 2 weeks ago on the show. I said that, in my opinion, we're getting the best Seth Rollins that he's been, and between that finish of the ladder match where he springboards off the top rope and scurries up the ladder and literally plucks it out of Finn Balor's hand, between that and the match that him and Balor had on Raw on Monday, I fully stand behind that. I truly think that this is the best Seth Rollins that we've seen in the WWE.
Absolutely.
Let me ask you guys this. A lot of times when they do have other house shows that are blown up, in terms of proportion and making it a bigger event than your standard, show at the Dane County Coliseum or whatever we have here in Madison. Suppose this wasn't put on the network and they didn't use it the way they do for, the record books online or whatever else, and it was just something we read about online. Braun Strowman gets this green belt for winning the Greatest Royal Rumble. Daniel Bryan lasted more than an hour. And suppose they, even whether or not you want to include the title change with the tag team titles or not, had it not actually been put on the WWE Network and we just read it online through Twitter or whatever else, would you guys have more? How would that change how you viewed the Greatest Royal Rumble? I know that sounds weird, but that's sort of how you watched it in a way, or that's how you got the, had it not been on the network, would that have changed how you view it? Just because it would have been, it's a special event there. It's not necessarily because it's not on the network or on pay-per-view that it's not necessarily taking away from another big event. It is just its own big event. And, good for Braun for winning that green belt over there. That doesn't really mean anything anyway. Had it not been on the network or pay-per-view or whatever, would that change the view of all of this?
I think I would have viewed it less favorably if it wasn't on the network, because I would have then read, I know that there was no stakes involved other than a green belt that's never going to be seen again in a trophy, but I would have read about Braun Strowman breaking Roman Reigns' record of throwing people over, and then I would have read about Daniel Bryan, one of my all-time favorites, breaking the record for longest time in a Rumble match, and then I would have seen the clips of Titus Worldwide, and then I would have seen the Deleters of Worlds win the tag team titles, and I would have been very upset that I didn't get to actually see that, whether it was spoiled or not. So I think I would have viewed it less favorably, because I have my complaints, but the little bit of the show that I watched, the Rumble match, the tag team match, and the finish to all the other matches, was enjoyable enough for me that I don't absolutely hate and despise the show. And hearing that the women got paid main event money, even though they didn't make it, or didn't go to the show, makes me feel a lot better about watching it as well.
Okay, then what if they had called it the Greatest Battle Royal, and then knowing that it wasn't going to be on TV or on the WWE Network, would you have just thought of it as, they're doing a big event over there, just like the one in South Africa, leading up to last week's Monday Night Raw? Or you get what I'm saying? Had they not maybe blown it up on the network as much and let it be its own, just a news story as opposed to one that's visible for us, I don't know, would that have changed for you guys? For me, it would have a little bit. And also, I mean, using the name Royal Rumble itself is also kind of, you're treading kind of dangerous territory there.
I think that, I can see it from both sides, but ultimately I think I'm kind of in the same boat with Andre, where had I not been able to see it, especially with it being named the Royal Rumble, that's kind of an event that you're going to want to see. You're going to want to watch that. I think that I would have been a little bit upset by that, but it probably wouldn't have changed my views about the results of the event itself too much. But, it just would have been one more thing. But it's just one thing, I don't think it would have really upset me that much more than, and not that I'm upset by the event or anything, but I don't think that it would have changed my views on what happened that night that much.
So, like we said, the women weren't allowed there, and it just, I don't know, that certainly sucks. I guess my hope is that now this is a 10-year contracted thing, that hopefully at some point we do get to see them. But like I said, WWE had to apologize for women just being on the Titantron.
WWE didn't apologize.
I'm sorry, you're right. It was their version of the gaming commission, or whatever you want to call it, the Saudi Arabian sports authority.
That was where I was gonna go
right?
with it.
To me, I kind of like that WWE play that ad in the stadium. You know, I don't know if that got them in any kind of trouble, but I think that's kind of cool that they did that, because at least it was something.
Yeah.
And a fan showed a video from when it happened, and they cheered like crazy when Carmella was on the screen. So it's not like the fans there were like, "Oh my gosh, how come they did it?" It's just the old antiquated ways.
You
I don't know. I don't want to get into the political aspect of it.
You can't just put up property like that in front of everybody, you know. Yeah,
Kayfabe.
ridiculous. Kayfabe. But also then we played Davari's music to start the show. Do you want to give us the backstory on that, Andre?
Well, there's a lot of tension between Saudi Arabia and Iran, and Davari and his brother, who hasn't been on TV for a while, made an unadvertised appearance waving the Iranian flag and trash talking for recruits. One of which, by the way, did you both see this part?
Yes.
The long-haired kid?
Yeah.
Only 17 years old.
Are you serious?
Yes. The moment he started talking, you know that he's got a future in professional wrestling.
Of the four, he stood out to me more out of the four.
I didn't know he was 17.
I didn't know that either. I would have thought that he's like in his early to mid 30s.
Yeah. Not that he's going to be like Daniel Bryan in 10 years or whatever, but that he's got a future in professional wrestling.
That's
but
fair.
The little moment of time that he had, he capitalized on, and he showed that he has potential in the business for sure.
At least as a manager, because at least he can talk
Yep.
at 17 years old, and he's only going to get better. But anyways, the Davaris came out. They talked smack about the trainees, and the trainees got a few shots in. One got pushed down, one guy kicked him, and then another guy held him for like 10 minutes. Not literally 10 minutes. Held him for a long time and body slammed him. But after that, Davari was getting death threats because of I didn't read the specifics of it, but because of the thing that he did, the act that's all you can say. He had to post something on social media saying, "I'm an actor and I was playing a character and I shouldn't receive death threats," stuff like that. So it was just a weird. They probably shouldn't have gone that route in that area. I mean, I understand it's professional wrestling and you do that kind of stuff, but it was just, I don't know, weird. And the fact that he was getting death threats is kind of not cool.
No, it's ridiculous that he had to, and I understand why he felt he had to, obviously if you're getting death threats, but it's ridiculous that he should have to say, and he even said in the tweet that it's just like when you go see a movie, that's not really happening. That person is portraying, a fictional or even, somebody who was real in the past at some point. It doesn't matter. It's not really happening. It is a depiction. So I know that the culture is different, but it still, to me, it is a little ridiculous.
Arnold Schwarzenegger never got death threats for killing random women named Sarah Connor, It's just ridiculous.
So also at the Rumble event, another match that I really enjoyed was the Cruiserweight Championship match. Cedric Alexander defended his title successfully against Kalisto. This was probably the only other match that really stood out to me besides the Rumble itself and the IC title ladder match. Just a great display for the Cruiserweights. They both had a great match, and Cedric Alexander came out on top. So just wanted to mention that. I don't know. Do you guys have anything else that you want to really mention about the Rumble itself? Because I feel like I
think it was good that they made Daniel Bryan. I think he deserved the record. I think that is cool. I once again, I would have preferred that it happen at your standard Royal Rumble of 30 people in January. But I'm glad they made him look strong, I guess, if you will. Braun also took over Roman's lead for the most eliminated in one Royal Rumble. Obviously, once again, there was 10 more people than there had ever been in a Rumble before.
Doesn't matter. The 40-man Rumble counted for these records too. So.
Right. No, that's why I'm saying the 10 more. Yeah.
No,
so
no. Oh, I see.
Right. No, but I get what you're saying. And then also Daniel Bryan getting thrown out by Big Cass. I think that was one of the other things that I think furthered a storyline of some sort, as opposed to just kind of a random continuation or like a blip on a timeline of storylines. I think this was actually an important mark for Big Cass to eliminate Daniel Bryan just having come back. And Big Cass's first match really was since the injury back in August was here at Saudi Arabia. So for Big Cass, I thought that was a huge moment, and that will be maybe one of the highlights when it's all said and done for certainly that rivalry.
Jeez, did you see him call out Daniel Bryan on SmackDown yesterday?
He's continuing to impress me.
Yeah.
Every week. And
to do that in Montreal too, because that was reminiscent of when after the Montreal screw job, HBK and Triple H did the same thing where they had a mini Bret Hart come out. It wasn't in Montreal when that happened, but I believe it was still in Canada, maybe in Toronto when it happened. So that was very much reminiscent of, he did that in Montreal specifically because Triple H and HBK DX at the time did the same thing, making fun of Bret Hart, saying that we're going to have Bret Hart on Raw. And of course the music hits and it's a little person in Bret Hart's attire.
Yeah, Big Cass he's continually impressing me more and more on the microphone, and I'm really glad that he's able to get this mic time that he's having, because previously being teamed up with Enzo Amore, he definitely did most of, if not all of the talking outside of Cass spelling out soft. But it's really cool to see Cass as a heel just have as much mic time as he's had and really stepping up to it. And even though they haven't had their match yet, I'm sold on Cass being a top heel and being in that position on SmackDown.
And look at what he's doing. He's in a premier spot, fresh off an injury, against Daniel Bryan in his first one-on-one match since his retirement. This is a huge deal. This is
both of their first one-on-one matchups back, pretty much.
Yep. So this is a big deal, a big marquee match on this pay-per-view. I know it's not going to go on last, but it's still one of the premier matches.
I agree. This one I think could go on first and steal the show, but I think that would be to have Daniel Bryan's music hit first at Backlash would be pretty great. Also, for Big Cass, gets on the same show as Carmella, and also Paige and is on the same show as Consequences
I'm looking
Creed.
forward to Daniel Bryan's first one-on-one match in 3 years.
Xavier Woods and Paige on the same show too. So I wonder if they'll be in any segments together. But I'm excited to see that possibility.
No
highly doubt that they're going to take anything there. But speaking of Backlash, Daniel Bryan versus Big Cass, just to run down the rest of the card, we're going to have a United States Championship match where Jeff Hardy will be defending against Randy Orton. The team of Braun Strowman and Bobby Lashley will be taking on the team of Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn. Then we'll have the SmackDown Women's Championship defended where Carmella defends against Charlotte Flair, and also the Raw Women's Championship where the champion Nia Jax defends against Alexa Bliss. Then we also have the Intercontinental Championship match where Seth Rollins is going to be defending against The Miz, and the WWE Championship match where we're going to have AJ Styles versus Shinsuke Nakamura. And as announced on SmackDown last night, it will be a no disqualification match. And we also will have Roman Reigns versus Samoa Joe. And I'm pretty looking forward to this card. It's shaped up pretty well.
And that's what I wanted to ask you guys about now after talking about some of the Saudi Arabia stuff and Greatest Royal Rumble. Is there things that could happen this Sunday that would maybe change your mind of I don't know, it being a proper stepping stone to this? Or would it also be a misstep to have a bunch of title changes here now after limiting some of them at Mania and then having basically none other than the one that was foretold, with there being a vacant tag team championships? No, not Andre. You're saying no?
No, because I still think this show stands alone outside of the Greatest Royal Rumble, and I think WrestleMania still stands alone. Yeah, WrestleMania didn't have all of the title changes that we expected, but it still was a good show, and it still had a lot of moments and a lot of shocks and surprises and a lot of things that we didn't expect to see. So I think WrestleMania stood above the Greatest Rumble, and I think Backlash is going to stand above the Greatest Rumble, and I'm looking forward to this Backlash, and nothing that happened at Greatest Rumble is affecting that, and I don't think anything that will happen at Backlash is going to affect the way I look at either Backlash or Greatest Rumble, because I think they're kind of separate. That's kind of what the Greatest Rumble is not 100% canon theory of mine, that I think that it's not going to affect too much, in my mind, for as far as how, as a fan, I'm going to enjoy it, it's Backlash is still something I'm looking forward to in a vacuum solo, not with the Rumble in my mind.
Yeah, and I'm also excited to see the first regular, double brand pay-per-view and see how exactly this works. Just to see, I don't know if they're, with Raw being, how many, there's more Raw matches maybe by one than, it's pretty close. It's pretty even. I was wondering how they would do that.
There are 2 inter-brand matches.
Okay, because the IC match obviously could also swing to SmackDown technically, but the U.S. title is 2 SmackDown guys. So you got to think that the IC title would stay on Raw, but you never know, right?
If Miz wins, does he go back to Raw? I think that would be kind of pointless. Or does SmackDown get 2 titles?
See, I don't know, because we want to keep the possibility of Bryan and Miz alive,
and they've been doing such a good job of teasing it and making it seem like the moment is going to happen between the two.
Yeah.
So I don't think that whether or not the Miz wins, I don't see him leaving SmackDown right now. I guess that means that technically both the United States and Intercontinental titles would be on SmackDown, but. And I mean, the thing is too with the Miz is he's 1 title away from tying Chris Jericho with 9 title reigns, which is the record. So it's not outside. It's not outside of the realm of possibility putting the title back on him right now. Especially the way that they're giving away, what's the word, Grand Slam championships right now.
No kidding.
Like
God.
it's I don't think that that's outside of the realm of possibility.
And here's the thing: they're trying to make Money in the Bank one of the big 5 pay-per-views along with the traditional big 4, which in this era of now co-branded pay-per-views, how do you make something like that bigger than a Backlash or another co-branded pay-per-view, which I think leaves the possibility of Miz winning and jumping back to Raw, as you can still have that match, the interbrand match,
because it's co-branded now.
Because it's co-branded,
yeah.
And because Money in the Bank they want it to be a big 5. So if you're not going to do co-branded matches, other than maybe Backlash now because of the shakeup, if you're going to keep the matches to each show and just do it on a big 4, and if that's going to be the interbrand match that happens at Money in the Bank, that will be the best possible one you could have because of the story behind it. But I'm just trying to throw out ways for Miz to still be a possible winner in this match on Sunday, because I don't like going into a pay-per-view thinking that I know who's going to win.
Also, do they give him that? Do they tie him with Jericho at a Backlash? I feel like they're going to wait for that a little bit longer. Also, what I like about this too is we've had Mania, Greatest Royal Rumble, and then Backlash this Sunday. Then there's actually 6 weeks before Money in the Bank, so there is a good chunk of time for them to maybe sort things out and maybe get a little bit settled from especially from this last month. And you throw a superstar shakeup in there too with basically 3 pay-per-views. So yeah, I think they need this. And then there's a NXT takeover also the night before Money in the Bank as well in Chicago, which will be amazing, because I think the pay-per-view of 2017 was probably NXT takeover in Chicago last May. I think it was the night before Backlash, if I'm not mistaken, where you had Pete Dunne along with Tyler Bate and a couple other really great matches. I think that was when Tommaso Ciampa also tore his knee and turned on Gargano.
Yeah, that was a great event. So that's absolutely going to be a good one again this year. Getting back to Backlash here, Braun Strowman and Bobby Lashley versus Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn. It was really interesting seeing Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn on Raw this past Monday, and the team of them and Jinder versus Strowman, Lashley, and Roman Reigns, where normally the team of Owens, Zayn, and Mahal would have been booed. I don't know if I've heard a pop quite as loud this year, this wrestling year, quite as loud as when both Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn came out. That was just unreal. The place just came unglued.
Yeah, I agree with that. I loved it. I'm going to say this. I'm so sick of 6-person tag matches, but I made an exception for this one because of the atmosphere in Montreal, the reception of not only Sammy and Kevin Owens, which was incredible, but the reception of Roman Reigns, that had me hooked on the match. And that, even though I know it was by association, but Jinder getting somewhat of a cheer, at least it was just when he was in the ring with Roman Reigns and hitting Roman Reigns. But to hear Jinder get some cheers, that kind of made my day a little bit.
Yeah, and he's a Canadian too as well. But I know it's not. They don't really talk about that too much in storyline. They did mention it a little bit on Monday because of them being in Canada. But so I was at the Raw and SmackDown after WrestleMania. To me, those Montreal crowds the last 2 nights was a lot more like your standard first night after WrestleMania than what we've seen or than what we saw earlier those last couple nights in New Orleans. I think being burnt out too from the night before 7-8 hours, and then the night before that with either Supercard or NXT. That I don't know, but that Montreal crowd, man, that's when it comes through the TV like that makes it so much more fun to watch. Like the crowd to me is such a big aspect in putting on better matches and making it more exciting to the point where when you're at home, you do want to make sure that you are not going to miss anything.
When the real life boos overtake the piped in cheers for Roman Reigns, that's when you know you got a hot crowd.
That was definitely a thing that happened, and they were just as crazy for SmackDown the next night. Mm-hmm. It was a great 2 nights in Canada. That crowd was just like you said, Frony. It helps make the show that much more fun.
Yeah, it's such an important aspect that I think sometimes goes forgotten. And you can have guys that will put on a great match, but I think that if Dave Meltzer has the pen and the paper and he's getting his star rating out, that a crowd not being involved in a match can hurt the rating, I would imagine. I think it can for me. I think it really adds so much more when the crowd's as in it as anybody, because the announcers, everything that happens is the greatest thing that ever happened. JR was always good about that. If something great happened in the first match, he wouldn't put it over quite as much as he would in the main event, and I think that's how it should go. Whereas we get Michael Cole and Tom Phillips, that everything that happens is unbelievable and never been done before. Like, I think that hurts a lot of the matches too. But when the crowd is as engaged as they were in everything that happened the last 2 nights, it's so much more fun even watching at home. I think it matters that much more.
Michael Cole will be deleted very, very soon, so don't worry about him. We will no longer have to hear him talk trash about Senior Benjamin, and we will no longer have to hear him say, "It's boss time." But I'm kidding. In all seriousness, I agree with you on the crowd, and I want to point out that the opposite is true. You can have a match that's okay, average, decent, that is actually turned into a great match because the crowd is into it. WrestleMania 18 is an example, and I don't want to say that was just an average match between Hogan and The Rock. That's not what I mean by there. That was a good match that was made better because of the crowd. If you watch that match on mute, it's not as good as if you watch it with the crowd. That's what I mean. I didn't mean to call. I don't want to say that match was average.
I actually like where you're going, because in my head I was like, okay, maybe Stone Cold versus HBK with Tyson as the referee.
I thought that match was great.
But that's the WrestleMania, I think it was Toronto that year with Hogan and Rock, was amazing, and it was put up another notch because of the crowd. It's that aspect. It does matter. But back to Michael Cole. If he does get thrown in the lake of reincarnation, would he become Micro Cole? From WLC?
As long as we can get what was it, JB Elf and Jerry the King Smaller. Oh, as long as we can get all of them, yes.
All right, good.
A couple matches that I'm really looking forward to, especially because of the way things went down at the Greatest Rumble, are the 2 women titles matches. We're gonna have Nia Jax defending against Alexa Bliss, and on the Raw side, and on SmackDown we're gonna have Carmella defending against Charlotte. Which this past week on SmackDown, the combination of Carmella and the Iconics makes all the sense in the world. That I think that the 3 of them, if they're gonna kind of be a thing together, sign me up for it. Their attitudes are all exactly the same. The Iconics are pretty much responsible for Carmella being able to cash in and defeat Charlotte for the title, so it makes sense. And it kind of sucks that the Riot Squad is now on Raw, because they're pretty much the only other legit 3-woman group right now, because Absolution was completely dissolved, as Paige announced or said in a segment backstage on SmackDown this week. But you put those three together, and I think that Carmella can actually be viewed as a dominant champion.
The Iconics are so good. They had me utterly, completely confused because for about 10 seconds, there were two Renee Youngs on my TV screen, and I lost my mind because that impersonation was incredible.
I'm going to announce this right now that Peyton Royce and I are engaged. So I want everyone to just lay off her on social media and everything else. She is my girlfriend, and I think you guys should all be respectful of that.
Okay.
But pardon me. I just had to get that important statement out there. Do you guys see one of the women's matches actually main eventing this pay-per-view because maybe some of the residual effect of not being at Greatest Royal Rumble?
I kind of thought they both would close.
I think we could see Bliss and Nia Jax, possibly, depending on if Natalya and Ronda Rousey get involved, because they're kind of somewhat interweaved in that with Mickie James and the whole Natalya Ronda thing. But I kind of don't hope that happens because I want to keep the championship separate and important, and Ronda separate and important for now. But if they're going to go that route and have a bunch of those people get involved, then I could see that going on last. But I could also see Charlotte Flair re-winning her title going on last. If she does, that's not a prediction or anything.
Another reason that I have high hopes for Backlash is it's in New Jersey at the Prudential Center, I think formerly the Izod Center. But this is the place that was after WrestleMania a few years back when it was in New York and Ziggler cashed in. So this New Jersey crowd is one of the best crowds. So I think once again that could play a hand in upping the ante a little bit of importance and interest in that aspect for this pay-per-view. So another reason I think to be excited is New Jersey will have one of the best crowds that you can have in wrestling.
Fantastic. I'm super excited about everything with this pay-per-view. Including now the WWE Championship match with AJ Styles and Shinsuke Nakamura. The build up to this match lead everything that's happened pretty much since WrestleMania, where Nakamura hit the first of many low blows to AJ Styles and turned heel. Everything that they've done with Nakamura since then, in my eyes, has been fantastic. And you're seeing a different side of Nakamura that we haven't really seen at all in his entire run with WWE and NXT. I worry that people are going to get tired of seeing these two. It might be too much too soon. I think they're doing a really good job with it, but at the same time, I could see how maybe people are like, oh, here we go again, Shinsuke and AJ. And it's especially because the result has pretty much been Shinsuke just delivering a low blow every time. How do you guys feel about what's going on with AJ and Shinsuke, and who do you see walking out as the WWE champion this Sunday?
I think it's great. I think the no DQ aspect offers a lot to that match because now the pinsacha is legal, as EC3 calls it, the low blow by Shinsuke. But then, as AJ Styles pointed out, he can cheat now too because that's within the rules. So I think that adds another element, and I don't know if people are going to get sick of it. I think we're going to have to wait and see until after Sunday how the match goes. But if the match is as good as it can be, can I get both of you to admit that WrestleMania, from the start of the entrances to the heel turn, was a good chapter 1 for this feud? But I'll hold off on that until next week. But
I never said it wasn't a good start to the feud.
Okay, cool. I'm glad.
Especially now that I've seen what they've done with it and where they've come along and where it could go still. I'm absolutely on board with the idea that was a good start to this feud.
Yes and no. What I still have to get the half-hour bell-to-bell or 25-minute bell-to-bell match that somewhat lines up with that Wrestle Kingdom 10 match. I have to have...
But it's not the Wrestle Kingdom 10. There was a different dynamic there. It wasn't the same heat.
I'm asking for a long match between two of the top 5 or top 10 best wrestlers in the world, and I don't think that's that much to ask for. I think there's a reason that they're in this feud, and that match a few years ago is a big part of it. I want that, whether it's the blow off or not. I don't care if it ends in a double DQ or a time limit. I'm fine with that. I want the long match that I get these two where they get time, they tell one lengthy story, and like I said, that can still be another chapter in the book, and it doesn't have to end there. But I want that long piece that people can go back and say, look what these two guys did in WWE after what, this amazing show that they put on in Japan, that they were two of the best, and they did it on any stage, in any stadium. It didn't matter. So I'm still looking for that. And if that doesn't happen, yes, I'll be disappointed, but I don't think it'll take that much away from these guys or the story, but that really would put it up another level in my opinion.
And that's kind of what I was getting at. That's why I said we'll come back to this after Sunday. If Sunday delivers on that, will that change your tune for the start?
Absolutely.
Okay,
and I'm
cool.
still going to wish that I had got to see it live. And I think that's understandable, but at the same time, I'm not gonna be sitting there like, this is a great match, gosh darn it all, like I'm not. I think I'll be fine with having the great match because this is what I've been looking forward to. So, and it's something that people have been clamoring about, for so long. Once these two finally came to WWE, so to finally get them in the situation where they're in now, and I think it is good that it's not face, that it's heel versus face. I think that is even better that they've gone this route. But give me the bell-to-bell, 25 minutes plus of these two in the ring, slow build, telling a story. That's really what I'm looking forward to most.
So then my next question to both of you is, will we get that on Sunday?
I don't think they do. Well, God, it could go on last.
It's no DQ, so as of right now, outside of it being a no DQ match, I don't see there even being a possibility of that, just because of how Shinsuke is being booked, how he will take whatever shortcut and deliver a low blow whenever he sees the opportunity, and doesn't care if he gets disqualified or not, or AJ will do everything that he can and they end up being double counted out. Without this no DQ stipulation, I don't see that happening right now. And I'm actually kind of hoping that is something that happens this Sunday, is that these two just give it everything that they have, and weapons, low blows, whatever, it doesn't matter because it's no disqualification.
I don't think we're going to see a lot of weapons, at least not right away. I think the story is going to be more of a, can Shinsuke hit the low blow? And you can have a no DQ match that goes long, and you can have a no DQ match that's 5 stars. And you can have a match that's 5 stars that doesn't have a winner, like Omega and Okada. One of those were, spoiler alert if you haven't seen that yet. But at the same time, Jericho and Omega also was no DQ, and that lasted a while, and that was a 5-star match. So I think it's possible, and I think that we're not going to see a lot of weapons at first, but I think we're going to see the whole story of Shinsuke Nakamura cheating, and mostly with the trying to hit the low blow. But I don't know. I'm leaning 50-50. I hope they give us a great match, which they can do, whether it's no DQ or not. But I don't think this is the last time that they face each other in the near future of 2018. I think they got to be careful of it not doing it too much, but I think there's maybe 1 or 2 more before they take a little break, I think, which is only best for the feud, because that's kind of like what the Shawn Michaels Triple H 3-4 year long feud was. It wasn't all 4 years. It was they'd feud, they'd take a break, they'd feud. So if they do it right, they can stretch it out a little bit. But Sunday's going to be very interesting, and I'm looking forward to that match a lot, probably more so than any other match on the card.
Yeah, I think that it's the match I'm also most looking forward to. There's a fun spot that I could see them maybe borrowing from. It's unlikely because it was somewhat of a comedy spot, not necessarily. But in 1999, I believe it was Fully Loaded, if not SummerSlam. The rights to DX, it was Road Dogg and X-Pac against Billy Gunn and Chyna. Chyna, of course, very well known for the low blow. Road Dogg, at the end of the match, takes a low blow, but all of a sudden Chyna's holding her arm and Road Dogg pulls out a steel cup, which I know is completely ridiculous, but it was pretty funny, and I don't know, I could see them, doing something of a similar thing. I know it is ridiculous, but it was extremely hilarious.
Maybe not, because who's head writer for SmackDown?
Yeah. Oh, that's great.
The man himself.
Very good, putting it together. All right, I like that.
The man himself.
So there you go.
Over under on the cup. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah. I'd go half cup.
Oh my.
All right. Roman Reigns and Samoa Joe. This will most likely close the show, you guys think?
I'm not sure, but I also think that with once again, the New Jersey crowd, I think that Reigns is going to be hopefully the audible villain here in this situation.
I have a prediction. Samoa Joe is winning this match.
Well, I think that'd be great for him going into SmackDown even hotter, because he has yet to wrestle, right? Since coming back, it's been all promos.
Yeah,
and he's teased going into the ring to fight.
No,
Reigns.
he had a match against Sin Cara a week or two
ago.
And
squash
it was a squash match, but
okay.
So he has come back.
Right.
I also think that Reigns should win. Or I'm sorry, that Reigns should lose and Samoa Joe should win, just to kind of further. Reigns kind of has his own storyline of failing going on right now and being put in big match after big match. And granted, at least two or three of the last big matches that I'm referring to are Universal title matches against Brock Lesnar, but he keeps coming up short. And I think that you further that along to try to bury him more so that when he finally does beat Brock Lesnar, that can kind of get the crowd behind him and make him a bit more of the underdog, even though he's the big dog. And also, as of right now, that would be great for Samoa Joe to put that feather in his cap.
I think it'll be perfect for both guys. And I think it's going to happen. I'm probably completely wrong, and I'll be eating crow next week. But it worked. Samoa Joe came out and challenged the winner of the AJ Styles and Nakamura match to a championship match. And you don't usually come in to WWE, especially after having been injured a couple times, and just demand a match and get it. So I think, and I'm talking kayfabe here, so I think him beating Roman Reigns would legitimize him in a sense and give him a reason to claim that he can face Joe, or he can face AJ or Shinsuke. And as Chandler said, the Roman Reigns losing thing has kind of been a thing that he can't quite get over the hump of Brock. And I know that Samoa Joe is not Brock to them, but I just feel it. I see it coming. But we'll find out.
Let me ask you guys a question. When's the next time we see a Universal Championship match?
Who knows?
Is it in your opinion? Do you think we get it in I guess 6 weeks from now at Money in the Bank?
I guess maybe
if they're trying to elevate that to a top 4, top 5 main event pay-per-view status.
If they're maybe, yeah, I didn't think about that. But if they're hell bent on getting the fans to boo Brock and cheer Roman, I could see them holding off till SummerSlam to make the fans, I can't believe he's not defending the belt in the show, and to have Roman Reigns come out and say, I'm here every week, and Brock isn't. So I could see that happening, but after hearing you, I think it'll probably be Money in the Bank.
Okay.
Well, I mean, hell, even Rollins came out this week and kind of mentioned that and said that that's not the kind of champion that he wants to be. So it's frustrating, and I know that they're doing it on purpose, obviously. I've heard rumblings, too, that there's a good chance that he's going to break the 434 that CM Punk had, which is 434 days as WWE champion. CM Punk is this current era's longest reigning world champion, and there's a good chance that Brock could break that, and
with like 1/4 of the defenses.
Yep.
Or I wonder what the numbers are on that. I'd actually like to look at that.
It's not helping anybody. It's hurting Roman Reigns, it's hurting Brock Lesnar, and it's hurting the Universal Championship.
Well, that's what I want to ask you guys. Is anyone do you know other people who are, maybe they're the people who straight buy the kayfabe that we're being sold, but is anyone like, gosh, I just really hate Brock Lesnar right now? Is it, or like,
I see it more so on Twitter.
Yeah.
Okay. Because to me, I just don't get how, to me, it's not working in trying to make Brock Lesnar the villain. I mean, we're older, whatever. We understand that they're holding off and whatever Brock's contract is, but I think ultimately, and I know that they're playing this into it, but I want to see the damn title, man. If this is supposed to be the most important title, and I know they created it out of thin air after the brand split, but then make it that, and it should be seen more often. I think that it actually hurts the title and the title scene in general. And now, if you really look back to November, we knew that it was going to be Reigns and Lesnar for so long. I know we didn't get the title switch we thought, but this has been going on for so long now. I'd rather just get us a champion that we're going to see and make the title make sense and defend it. I know they're going to, once Reigns is the champion, he will defend it all the time.
That would be his angle,
But I don't know. It's just in a weird, frustrating position with I'm just obviously pretty over this situation already.
It's working as in the sense of it's getting us to boo Brock Lesnar, but it's not working in the sense where it's getting us to cheer Roman. And they're going to keep doing it, and it's just going to make it worse. But anyways, go ahead.
I was going to say, as much of an issue as I have with that, with the whole angle of getting us to boo one of these guys and cheer the other, which people really aren't doing either of. To me, the most upsetting thing is the fact that it's hurting the championship the most. It's a brand new championship. Finn Balor was the first one to hold it. He dropped it the next night because he blew his shoulder out in the match. Then it was vacant.
Triple H handed it to Kevin Owens, basically.
But Kevin Owens had a legitimate title reign.
Sure, absolutely, yes.
And it was a good title reign. It was about 6 months or so. I want to say it might have been, give or take. It was about 6 months. It was, in my eyes, a good title reign, the best title reign that anyone has had so far with that title. The only one that's mattered so far, unfortunately,
yes.
because of I hate saying that, but because Finn had to drop it, it was the only one that's mattered so far. Then you have him lose the title to Goldberg, who was a part-timer, who didn't defend it, or who wasn't seen on TV with it on a weekly basis. And then you have Goldberg lose to Brock Lesnar, who for the past year has had it and has had 6-7 matches. It's crippling the title more than anything. And for me to buy the fact that this is supposed to be the number one title, not only on Raw but in the entire company, that's not how you do that.
And on top of that, you got a white hot 6'8", 375-pound monster that you have to give tag team titles with a little kid.
He got the green belt,
and
though. It's
the
fine.
green belt that we saw one time, and the trophy
that'll
just
appease us.
to give him something to do. Eventually, he's got to move shows or something because you got it. Just I'd say that they're hurting four things: those three superstars and the title belt and the whole Universal title scene. I mean, you could argue that it's helping Seth Rollins on the IC title, but is it at the right cost?
And I also don't think that Lesnar's going to be over and be important in storyline, whatever storyline he's in anyway, without the Universal title. I don't think that he needs the title or has needed it whatsoever in this over a year-long run now. So it makes it even more frustrating that we don't get to see the top champion on a 3-hour show every Monday night. Super frustrating.
Is this all our fault for not accepting Roman Reigns 3 years ago?
Our Lord and Savior Roman Reigns.
If you accepted Roman Reigns as your Lord and Savior, no.
I think Vince has a picture of Roman Reigns.
Yeah, I had a guy in a bulletproof vest.
Yeah,
come to my door and ask me the same thing, door to door.
Believe that.
Damn Reigns-ists.
Well, I think that about wraps it up for us this week. Check us out on our social media pages. You can find us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube at the Schmozcast. And yeah, I think that about does it for us. For Frony and Andre here at the 103.5 Studios, I'm Chandler. Thanks for listening.